What's up? We back at you one more time. What's up with Pastor Greg? And I have some amazing guests with me today. These are my sisters, whom I love dearly. They just make me blush all over. You know, Black people can blush. I am blushing, you know. I just got to throw that in there. I want y'all to know something, you know. I'm real with mine. We are real with ours here on What's Up because it's all about Christ-centered recovery. My two wonderful guests are back together. They are a team, a dynamic duo. For some of you who are fans of Batman, Robin, any of the other superheroes, they're my superheroes. We got Marin and we got Sarah Rice. What's up, ladies?
No.
So look, we're not going to stand on preliminaries. Yeah, we have fun here on What's Up. You know, we're trying to take some real hard and tough subjects and kind of approach them lighthearted because, you know, look, don't take life too seriously because you're not going to get out of here alive anyway, you know. But anyway, we just want to tackle some of the rough stuff in a user-friendly way with some people who are professional in their own right, who are very approachable and very accessible, here just to help you with a message of hope, a message of encouragement, message of inspiration. So we don't want to stand on any more preliminaries, you know, because I'm feeling it, you know. I got my black on, got my swagger on, you know. Oh yeah, I got my black on, right? Can't take that off. But anyway, you know, you gotta have some, we can have some fun. I love the skin I'm in. Ladies, you love the skin you're in, don't you?
I do.
Yeah, ain't nothing wrong with no shame in our game. So look, today, and I'm gonna let you know, they have their own counseling center, Koinonia. Did I say it right?
Yes.
I got it right?
Yeah.
I get an A, however you do that. I get a gold star. Counseling center. So I want you to know, these are some professionals in their own right, and I have had an opportunity to walk along with them, and they with me. And if you need any help, then we want to make that available to you. They're going to give you their information later on, and so that you can be able to access them. I believe they are available for individual as well as group counseling and anything basically that you can need. This is a safe place, safe space, and a wonderful opportunity. Well, ladies, as we were preparing for this segment today, and reaching out to you, I began to share with you concerns about grief and especially how it impacts recovery. Now, I know, you know, from your professional background, you would know more about it than I. You know, I'm a neophyte at this, but I'm still impassioned and dedicated to discovering the best practices, especially as a grateful recovering person my own self. So first, help us out, Sarah and Marin. What is your, I want to say your definition of grief?
You want to take that, Marin? And then I'll follow up after.
Okay, I'm going to answer in kind of a strange way because I want to say that I don't exactly know how to define grief. Grief is a very strange animal. It's like a metamorph. It like changes, and it changes sometimes by the second. But when you're grieving, you're dealing with some type of loss, any kind of type of loss. So it could be loss of a person dear to you. It could be loss of control of something. It could be loss of an experience, loss of something you're used to in your life, loss of normalcy in the world, loss of perspective of what you thought what the world was like, and then the world didn't turn out to be that way. So it's just loss in any case. And I would say it is the reaction, the natural human reaction, because I would say that we're not designed to have to grieve. And so it's the natural reaction to experience something that we're not designed for. And because it happens because of something that we're not designed for by God to experience, then our reaction is very chaotic because what we're experiencing is very chaotic. So our reaction doesn't have any specific order, specific formula, or specific way it's going to play out.
I got you. You know, because the one thing that came through loud and clear is loss.
Mhm.
Okay, you know, my um, understanding from, you know, little research that I have done is the emotional response, and you did include that, the emotional response to loss. And then you also detailed how it manifests or reveals itself in varying forms and also degrees. Sarah, could you add to some of that?
Yeah, grief is, it's interesting. We almost kind of have had, over the past few years, kind of fed to us that, there's stages of grief, or grief is this, you can package it up, put a nice bow on it, dust your hands off and walk away and said, I've gone through the stages of grief. Everything's great. But like Marin said, it's something that may have a starting point, but the end point is not really a destination. It's the journey along through your life and understanding when you need to be mindful and when you need to recognize the feelings that are mixed within grief,
Right.
that it's an emotional response, but you're going to be gathering different emotions within. And you can start off in an infancy area, which I know for me personally, I'm definitely in that stage from the loss of an actual human being, person in my life. And then kind of continuing on in the like not really stages of grief, but the progression of grief. One step forward, two steps back, sometimes with just the social unrest, and then figuring out, what is life that I expected as, coronavirus come upon and hit us. So it's not something that you can wrap up nicely, tie it with a bow, and be done with.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, because what I'm hearing you underlining, it's a process, and it's actually what I've heard you describe just then as a deliberate and intentional process. It's nothing to be rushed. And also, Marin, as you said, it's personal, so it's got to be, at your own pace. One, it is a reality. And it's unfortunate, though we have all experienced grief since time immemorial, that we have not been prepared. No one has oriented us. No one has, and Marin, you brought that point out, no one has trained us. No one has readied us for the inevitable. Even the Bible says it's appointed for man once to die and then face the judgment, which is, we call about the ultimate grief, which is loss of life. But you also were inclusive with regards to other areas of grief, like the loss of normalcy, like we're experiencing right now with this pandemic. All of our lives, truly recovering people, all of our lives. You're not the only one out there. All of our lives have been upended. We have all been kind of hit with what you call a curveball, and we've all suffered some form of loss, and this loss brings about grief. And that was what Sarah was alluding to, that there are some stages of those grief. Could y'all please share with us those stages of grief that you were referring to?
Sarah, do you have those stages in order that the original person?
I don't have the orders of
We're
like
talking
the
about
stages
Elizabeth Kubler. How do you pronounce that lady's name? Because
the
Pastor Greg is
acceptance
used
and
to
the
hacking up
denial and
yeah. Who is the author of that?
Okay. This is the
Kubler-Ross. Yep.
Kubler-Ross grief cycle.
Say Kubler. Say it again.
Kubler-Ross. So it's spelled.
Okay, hold on before you go. Look here, fans. I want to let you know something. Pastor Greg got a problem with pronouncing some people's name, because I would have called the woman cucumber. But anyway, that's why we got some therapists on here. They're going to help us out with the real. Please say her name again.
Okay, so it's Kubler-Ross, and it's spelled Kubler-Ross.
Okay.
So, Sarah, do you have them, or do you want me to say them? I have them up.
I've got it right here.
Okay.
So just to kind of break down the stages of grief that a lot of folks are familiar with. Oh, you're going to go through stages of grief, if you've ever heard that thrown out. So that's denial, and I'll just list them quick. Denial, anger, depression, bargaining, and acceptance. And what I want to preface before even delving deeper into that is, like I said, this is not like I'm from here from point A to point B.
Mm-hmm.
You have to understand that this could be and probably will be a lifelong process.
Okay.
That even though we talk about denial, anger, depression, and bargaining, you may have a shorter span between each of these. You may bounce from one to the other. And it's recognizing that that's not wrong if you do. Like, we don't have to go, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and boom, we're good. So those are at least the names of those steps.
Thank you so much. And I'm glad that you mentioned that, because that fits into an observation that Marin made earlier, one that we all experience regardless of how we are exposed to it, get on it, experience it. Because we are individuals, it is personal, and you just detailed and described that, because though we will all experience those 5 stages, it's the length of time per each stage, or the order of which we will experience them. To me, that's what I'm hearing you say, and correct me if I'm wrong, that's irrelevant. What's most important is that you know that you are experiencing them, that you have these things in common with others, and that there are ways to navigate successfully through them, and that it may take longer for some than it does for other, because it's not something that you graduate from. It's something that you experience and you go through, because many of us are still dealing with grief from way, way long time ago. And that doesn't make us bad people, does it?
No, not at all. No. Sarah, sorry, did you want to go?
No, it's just fine. I think sometimes I hear a lot as a therapist, just a friend, mother, sister, I should be over this by now. Like, I should be good. I should be over this by now. Like, I get a lot of that. Like, well, who says? Like,
yeah.
Who's got you on this time frame? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think when I hear that as a therapist often too, and just even not in a therapy role, I just hear that from people in like society, like, I should be over it by now. When I hear that, I kind of, I always push back against that, because it's almost like, I don't think grief is ever something you get over, nor do I think you should, because when you are grieving a loss, when God first created us, to go to the Christian perspective, when God first created us in the garden, he did not create humans to ever have to grieve. And so when we are doing that, we are experiencing something we were never actually designed to have to do.
Right.
So I don't think it's ever something you should get over, because God, if you're going for, like, you lost a person, right? That was close to you, you lost a loved one, that is the separation of between you and another image bearer, and we were never supposed to be separated, and God hates that we're separated. God will never ever be pro-death. He is always against death. Death is his enemy. He hates death. He hates it more than we do.
Yeah.
And so when something is an enemy, it's never something that should feel okay. It's just about, you are experiencing it in different ways and in different levels of heightenedness.
Yes.
And the way you react to it and the way you behave to grief, that can change. But the fact that you're grieving that separation, I don't think that ever goes away, and nor do I think it should.
Thank you for explaining that, Marin. It's because many of us recovering people, we really struggle with that. And that also speaks to what you said, a common statement, Sarah, that, I should be over it by now. It's like, well, no one's putting those, again, repeating myself, no one's putting those limits on you. But I think that we have, as a society, have been programmed that something is supposed to be completed with in a certain span of time, that we really don't get to glean from, as you mentioned earlier, Sarah, the journey you know, just like recovery. Recovery is a journey, you know, and that journey is involved with a lot of self-discovery, you know, of your strengths and your weaknesses so that you can become the best version of yourself. And now that is not to, you know, for, you know, show off for anybody else or impress anybody else, so that you can have that whole life, as Marin, you mentioned, that God has purpose for you. Yeah, we've all been shocked and shaken because this enemy has come and invaded our space and our world, called grief. That was not, like you said, I agree with you 100%. That was not in God's plan. That's why recovering people, we suck at it. We're just not good at a lot of this stuff that has not been planned for us. We're not good at it. So, but one, accept it. You know, there's nothing wrong with accepting it. Accepting that, you know what, there's some loss. Even right now, we got this stuff going on, and we're not, you know, we don't live in a vacuum, you know. You're going to get exposed to social ills one way or another, directly or indirectly. You know, we got not only the pandemic going on, but then we got social injustice going on and consciousness raising going on. And there's a whole lot of things that in those 5 stages of grief, denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance, that one might permeate more than the other, especially right now, is going to be anger. You know, a lot of people are really, really angry, is because not only loss, but also injustice. And what is injustice? A loss of justice. You know what I'm saying? So it all fits into the same, it all converges, right, ladies? But it's now about what we do with it. Because see, as recovering people, and what's up with Pastor Greg is really about is relapse prevention. We want you to be aware of these signs, these indicators, these triggers and cues that can contribute to and lead to a relapse. You know, and the best way is one, accepting things just as they are, instead of as you would like to ideally see them are. And one thing you have to, come on now, I have never known anybody to just like punch grief in the nose and win. This is a process, as you girls had just outlined, that we all will go through.
Right, for sure. I'll just want to add in there real quick too, because I think I myself have struggled with this, of just like the way society has framed the word acceptance, that I think it's important to remember that accepting something as the reality of the situation you're now in does not mean that you think it's okay.
Hey,
so,
oh, wait a minute. Hold on, Marin, just a second, because I always have to take off my hat and wipe some sweat from my bald head. You remember this, Sarah. I got to do this. I got to fan a little bit because she just, now you know we spit a lot of fire over here, right? So that was, y'all ought to be on blazes, you know, turn your air conditioning on, fans on, go wipe yourself, get a swig of water. I said water. Cool down, because she just said something that was fire. That was fire. Marin, please, humbly, earnestly humor me and say that again.
Yeah. So oftentimes we think that we have to, society gives us a prescribed view of acceptance, and acceptance, if you accept something as the reality of your situation, that does not mean that you think it's okay. It just means you've recognized it's here, but that doesn't mean that you have to like it.
I feel like using one of those crass examples, like, you know, walking and unwittingly for a walk or a stroll or whatever, and you stepped in somebody's dog's waste, and though you have it, it's a reality that has happened.
There, yeah.
Okay, and you're talking about your acceptance. Okay, yeah. I accept that this has happened, but doesn't mean I got to celebrate it.
No.
You know what I mean? I said it was a crass example, right?
Yeah, no, it's a great example.
It doesn't mean you can't wipe the, you know,
yeah,
off your
right?
it doesn't,
go with
doesn't
it.
mean you
Take the
actions towards, yeah.
Oh, Sarah, what you just said, girlfriend. Y'all need to hear what girlfriend just said. Well, you know, we swagalicious around here too, right? Listen what girlfriend just said. You can wipe it off. Mm-hmm. There's life after. There's life in spite of. There's life aside of. You got options. That's what they're here for. That's what Marin is here for. That's what Sarah's here for. That's what I'm here for. You have options. We are here to let you know you can wipe it off.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, I just want to take that even further. I mean, some of the things that I notice a lot with working with clients is life is not going the way that it should, or they figure every time I turn around, something is going wrong. And taking that analogy a little further is, you know, you may not be able to get a new pair of shoes, and your shoes may stink like dew.
Go ahead.
And that's not the end of the world. Like, you might not be able to get that dew off there the first time. You may have to try a whole bunch of different times.
Yep.
Until maybe you can buy a new pair of shoes.
Say that.
It's like Marin said, accepting where you're at does not mean you're saying, this is okay.
Yeah.
You know, let this life run me.
And that is so empowering, even, Marin, what you said, to say that it's not okay. You know, that is very powerful, because that is counter to what we've been conditioned. You know, it's almost as though, and I think this was at a lack of orientation and a lack of training and a lack of coaching and a lack of tutoring, that we have to, you know, accept these things as though we have no options because no one told us different.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
That's what I appreciate most about you, because, you know, people, we just want to let you know, we got some, you know, different perspectives, but what we'll find is that these perspectives of truth, they end up converging. We're going to, regardless of how you got on the road, we always end up coming to the same road, and our paths cross, you know, because truth is truth, regardless of where you are and who you are. Yeah. So, I mean, what she just said is so empowering. One, accept it, but you don't mean you got to, like, you know, you ain't got to celebrate it, you know. Come on now.
Yeah. No, don't celebrate grief. You can celebrate wisdom and lessons you glean from grief, but that's not celebrating grief itself.
Yeah.
So.
Amen. Well, I really appreciate that, ladies. You know, I wasn't going to run you all day long, but I really wanted to address this. Now, also, you know, we use the phrase, the elephant in the room. One, I'm not an elephant, even though I'm in the room. Okay. So there's a lot of social unrest, you know, Black Lives Matter, you know. One, we celebrate that all lives matter. And that's not taken away from Black Lives Matter. I like the movement. I'm glad for the awakening and the awareness and everything that's happening. I'm sorry that somebody had to lose their life. But if we think back, we wouldn't even have the salvation today if somebody didn't lose their life and his name was Jesus, okay? Almost the same type of scenario, you know, injustice, right? What do you do in spite of it? We keep moving forward, and we find a way to move forward. And we move forward at a pace that works best for us. Is what these two ladies in Koinonia Counseling Center will help you do is, one, accept yourself as you are, grow at your own pace, and enjoy the journey. The journey of discovering the best version of yourself, not in the image of somebody else or the cast of somebody else, but in your own. Because they agree as I do. As the Bible says it greatly, you are fearfully and you are wonderfully made. Mm-hmm. And this is what we're here today to empower you. So look here, before we cut this session off, and I know we said a lot of stuff, y'all probably need to rewind and play it slow again, because there was a lot of stuff here. Both of them was throwing fireballs, and I'm still kind of smoking over here. I'm gonna put the air conditioner on in a minute. But I want them to know how to access you, Marin and Sarah, how to access your services, access your gifts, access your calling, access your skill.
Mm-hmm.
Sarah, do you want to take that in a second? I wanted to offer to people, and I wanted to make an unsponsored book recommendation, basically. if you're dealing with individual grief. And if I did that, do you want to then just like share our information after? Does that sound good?
Yep.
Yes. Okay. So anyways, a book that's made a big influence on me to try to understand the messiness of grief and how to talk to people who are grieving. I would encourage you, if you know someone who has personally lost someone lately, or you yourself has personally lost someone lately, there's a book out there by the author Kate Bowler. It's spelled Bowler, and she is a Christian. She's a pastor and a seminary educator. And she also is someone who is diagnosed with incurable stage 4 colon cancer.
Wow.
And so she has they can't do anything about that. She's eventually going to die. And she wrote a book called Everything Happens for a Reason and Other Lies I've Loved. And it is a book that I think gives a very unique perspective on grief, and it is a perspective from a Christian on grief, but it's also a very irreverent perspective. It's not your typical Christian book where it's going to be all tied up and nice and tidy. She does.
I like those. That's the real Christians.
Yeah, she cusses in this book, so like it's super irreverent. You can get down with her. I love her for that. She's super real. And so I would just recommend reading that book. It really helped shape my perspective, but I just wanted to throw that in there real quick.
Thank you, Marin, so much. Yeah. That's piqued my interest. Sarah?
Yeah. Another thing I want to remind everybody of, that this grieving stage, though you may be working through the process, doesn't mean that it's just yours and yours alone to burden. So you can reach out to us, reach out to individuals such as Pastor Greg here that can help you through and process things so we can be open and honest with ourselves. Something that Pastor Greg can do in order to link us is we do have a Facebook page that has our website on it, as well as our phone number. So he can link that right in the video itself. We're Koinonia Counseling Center. So koinonia, which means in Greek, fellowship together with God, because nobody has to do things all by themselves.
These are brains right here, beautiful brains. I just love that, God has just blessed me, just put all these beautiful brains around me. I just love it. So I'm going to put that link when I post this segment. I'm going to put that link on there. I believe in these ladies. I tell you, if you have blessed to have an encounter with them, you will not be the same. One thing I know, they will share truth with you. They'll be forward, honest with you. They will, again, keep it at a user-friendly level and at a pace that you can grow, because it's all about growth. Thank you for joining us today about this very tough subject about grief, the emotional response to loss, and the very different ways in which it appears in our lives, but to leave you knowing that there is hope, there is encouragement, there are wonderful options, and we're here to help you discover them. God bless you. What's up?